The beeping of the heart monitor had been my constant companion for 3 days. 3 days of staring at the sterile white ceiling of the ICU, 3 days of wondering if my 34-year-old body would recover from the massive heart attack that had nearly killed me during what should have been a routine board meeting. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd been presenting quarterly earnings to the board of directors of my medical device company, explaining how our revolutionary cardiac stents were saving lives across the country, when my own heart decided to stage a rebellion. The doctors said it was stress. Years of 18-hour workdays, missed meals, and the constant pressure of building a business from nothing had finally caught up with me. What they didn't know was that the stress wasn't just from work. It was from carrying the financial burden of my entire family while they remained blissfully unaware of where their comfortable lifestyle actually came from. I was reviewing patient charts on my tablet. Even in the ICU, I couldn't completely disconnect from Meridian Medical Solutions, when my brother Daniel walked in. He looked haggard, his usually perfect hair disheveled, his expensive shirt wrinkled. "Elena," he said, barely glancing at the machines keeping track of my vital signs. "Thank God you're awake. We have a situation." I set down the tablet, noting how he hadn't asked how I was feeling or whether I was in pain. Classic Daniel. "What kind of situation?" "It's Dad. They found something during his routine checkup. A tumor on his pancreas. Dr. Richardson says it's operable, but we need to act fast." My stomach dropped. Despite everything, Dad was still my father. "How bad is it?" "Bad enough that they want to do surgery next week. But here's the problem. Insurance is calling it experimental because of Dad's age and condition. They're only covering 40%. How much do you need?" "50,000. Maybe more, depending on complications." Daniel sat down heavily in the visitor's chair. "Mom's beside herself. Dad's trying to act tough, but I can see he's scared." I studied my brother's face. At 36, Daniel had never held a job for more than 2 years. He'd bounced between sales positions, startup ideas, and get-rich-quick schemes, always managing to talk his way into just enough success to keep the family believing he was building his empire. What he was actually building was debt, which I'd been quietly paying off for years. "Where's everyone else?" "Marcus, Sophie, Mom." "Marcus is trying to get a loan, but you know his credit is shot. Sophie's maxed out her cards from that boutique disaster. Mom doesn't have anything. The house is mortgaged to the hilt and Dad's business has been struggling." What Daniel didn't know was that I'd been the one keeping Dad's construction business afloat. For 3 years I'd been funneling money through shell contracts, making it look like Dad was landing bigger jobs than he actually was. I couldn't bear to watch him lose the company he'd spent 30 years building, especially when I had the resources to help. "Daniel, you said I'm the only one with money. What makes you think I have $50,000? He looked at me like I was being dense. "Come on, Elena. You're a doctor. Well, sort of. Whatever it is you do with those medical things. You must have savings." "Sort of a doctor. I had a PhD in biomedical engineering, 2 master's degrees, and had built a company that revolutionized cardiac care. But to my family I was Elena who works at the hospital, and never got married, and spends too much time with her computers. I'm not a practicing physician, Daniel. I run a medical device company." "Same thing. The point is you're the responsible one. You're the one who always has her act together. You must have some kind of emergency fund." The responsible one. The one who always had her act together. If only he knew how much I'd been holding together, not just my own life but all of theirs. "I need to think about it," I said. "Think about it?" Daniel's voice rose. "Elena, this is Dad we're talking about. He could die if we don't do this surgery." "I understand that. But I just had a heart attack, Daniel. I'm still processing everything." "Right, sorry." He had the grace to look embarrassed. "How are you feeling, by the way?" "Like I almost died 3 days ago." "But you're okay now, right? I mean, you're talking and everything." I wanted to laugh, but it would have hurt too much. This was Daniel in a nutshell. Surface-level concern followed immediately by what he needed from me. "I'll handle it," I said finally. His face lit up with relief. "Really? You can get the money?" I said, "I'll handle it. Elena, you're a lifesaver. Literally. Dad's going to be so relieved." He stood up, already heading for the door. "Should I tell him it's coming from you?" "No," I said quickly. "Don't tell anyone where the money's coming from. Just tell them it's been handled." "Why not?" He should know his daughter came through for him. Because if they knew I had $50,000 sitting around, they'd start wondering what else I had. And then the requests would never stop. Just trust me on this, Daniel. The money will be there. That's all that matters. After he left, I lay back against the pillows thinking about my family. For years they'd seen me as the odd one out. While Daniel charmed his way through life and Sophie pursued her creative dreams and Marcus chased one business venture after another, I'd buried myself in research and development. I was the introvert, the workaholic, the one who showed up to family dinners with a laptop instead of a boyfriend. What they didn't see was that while they were living their lives, I was building mine. Meridian Medical Solutions hadn't just happened overnight. It had taken 8 years of brutal work, failed prototypes, rejected grant applications, and more sleepless nights than I could count. But it had paid off in ways they couldn't imagine. Last year's revenue was $47 million. This year we were on track for $68 million. The company employed over 200 people and our devices had saved an estimated 12,000 lives in the past 3 years alone. But to my family, I was still just Elena who worked with medical stuff and lived alone with too many cats. I had one cat, by the way, Schrodinger. He was excellent company. I picked up my phone and called my CFO, Maria Santos. Elena, how are you feeling? Don't you dare tell me you're thinking about work right now. I'm feeling better. And I'm not calling about work exactly. I need you to handle something personal. What do you need? I need you to contact Cedars-Sinai Hospital's billing department. My father, Robert Vasquez, is scheduled for pancreatic surgery next week. I want to pay for everything insurance doesn't cover, but I need it to be anonymous. How anonymous? Completely. As far as the family knows, some kind of charity or grant came through. Can you set up something through the foundation? The Meridian Foundation was our charitable arm, focused on providing medical care to underserved communities. This wouldn't technically be outside our mission. Consider it done. Anything else? Actually, yes. I need you to look into my father's construction business, Vasquez and Sons. Run a quiet financial analysis. And I need you to check on something else. 20 minutes later, I was still on the phone with Maria when Dr. Peterson, my cardiologist, knocked on the door. Elena, how are you feeling today? Much better. Ready to get out of here? Well, you're in luck. Your latest tests look good. We can discharge you this afternoon, but I want you taking it easy for at least 2 weeks. No work, no stress, plenty of rest. Define no work. Elena. Fine. Light work. Phone calls only. Light work, he agreed reluctantly. And I want to see you in my office next week. After he left, I called Daniel back. How's Dad doing? Better now that we know the surgery's covered. The hospital called an hour ago. Apparently some medical foundation is covering all the costs not covered by insurance. Can you believe that luck? That's wonderful news. I know, right? The coordinator said it's some kind of program for families facing financial hardship due to medical emergencies. Dad's surgery is scheduled for Thursday morning. I'm glad it worked out. Me too. Oh, and Elena, thanks for being willing to help. Even though it turned out we didn't need your money, it means a lot that you would have come through for us. After I hung up, I felt a familiar mix of satisfaction and frustration. Satisfaction that Dad would get the care he needed without financial stress. Frustration that my family had no idea how much I'd been coming through for them over the years. The next morning, I was signing my discharge papers when my phone rang. Dr. Richardson, Dad's surgeon. Ms. Vasquez? I wanted to give you an update on your father's surgery. I sat up straighter. Is everything okay? Better than okay. The surgery went perfectly. We were able to remove the entire tumor with clean margins. But there's something else I wanted to discuss with you. What is it? During our pre-surgical consultation, your father mentioned that his daughter works in medical technology. When I realized you were Elena Vasquez from Meridian Medical Solutions, I had to call personally. My heart sank. So much for anonymity. Dr. Richardson, I'd prefer if you didn't mention my company to my family. Of course I understand. But I wanted you to know, we've been using your cardiac stents here for 2 years. They're remarkable. You've probably saved more lives than you realize. Thank you. That means a lot. There's one more thing. I know about the foundation covering your father's surgery costs. That was you, wasn't it? I didn't answer directly. How's my father's prognosis? Excellent. Full recovery expected. He should be home by the weekend. When I arrived at the hospital that evening to visit Dad, I found the whole family crowded into his room. Mom was fussing over his blankets. Daniel was telling some story about his latest business idea. Sophie was showing him photos from her recent art show, and Marcus was explaining why cryptocurrency was the future of finance. Elena. Dad's face lit up when he saw me. There's my girl. How are you feeling, Mija? Much better, Dad. How are you? Good as new. Well, almost. Dr. Richardson says the surgery couldn't have gone better. That's wonderful news. Can you believe our luck? Mom said, taking my hand. First you get to come home from the hospital, then this foundation comes out of nowhere to help with Dad's surgery. It's like a miracle. Sometimes good things just happen, I said. Dr. Richardson mentioned something interesting, Dad said, studying my face. He said he's familiar with your work. That the company you work for makes some important medical equipment. I felt everyone's attention focus on me. It's not that big a deal, Dad. He seemed to think it was. Said your cardiac stents have revolutionized treatment at their hospital. Daniel looked confused. Wait, your company makes those? I thought you just worked with computers and medical stuff. I do work with computers and medical stuff. But you actually make medical devices? Sophie asked. Like important ones? Our devices help people with heart problems. It's no big deal. Elena, Dad said quietly. Dr. Richardson said something else. He said he wanted to thank the CEO of Meridian Medical Solutions personally for the foundation's contribution to my surgery. The room went completely silent. Dad, you're the CEO? Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. I looked around the room at my family's faces, confusion, shock, and something that might have been awe. I founded the company 8 years ago. Founded it. Daniel sat down heavily. Elena, what exactly does your company do? We develop and manufacture medical devices, primarily cardiac equipment. Stents, monitors, surgical tools. How big is the company? Dad asked. I hesitated. We employ about 200 people. Revenue? Marcus asked. He might be irresponsible with money, but he understood business. Last year was 47 million. The silence that followed was deafening. Million. Sophie's voice was faint. $47 million? Give or take. Mom sat down in the visitor's chair. Elena, are you rich? I'm comfortable. How comfortable? Daniel asked. Comfortable enough to handle Dad's surgery without thinking twice about it. The foundation, Dad said slowly, that was you. I nodded. How long? Mom asked. How long have you been? 8 years building the company. But I've been financially stable for about 5. 5 years, Daniel repeated. You've been wealthy for 5 years and never said anything. Why would I say anything? Because we're your family. And you're still my family. Money doesn't change that. But we wouldn't have had to. Daniel struggled for words. Wouldn't have had to what? Let me guess. You wouldn't have had to worry about money if you'd known your sister could just take care of everything? That's not what I meant. Isn't it? I looked around the room. Daniel, how many times have you called me asking for advice about money? Marcus, how often do you complain about not being able to afford things? Sophie, remember when your boutique was failing and you stressed for months about the debt? They all looked uncomfortable. I've been watching all of you struggle with money for years. But every time I offered help, real help, practical advice, connections that could have made a difference, you brushed me off. Because I was just Elena who worked with computers. We didn't know, Mom said softly. You didn't want to know. It was easier to see me as the spinster sister who lived alone with her cat than to consider that maybe I knew what I was talking about. That's not fair, Sophie protested. Isn't it? Sophie, 3 years ago when your boutique was hemorrhaging money, I suggested you needed to analyze your customer acquisition costs and profit margins. You told me I didn't understand retail because I wasn't creative. Sophie's face flushed. Marcus, 2 years ago when you asked my opinion about that tech startup investment, I told you their business model was unsustainable. You said I was too negative and invested anyway. How much did you lose on that one? Marcus looked at his shoes. Daniel, last year when you were considering that franchise opportunity, I offered to review their financial projections. You said you had it handled, and didn't need my help. The franchise folded 6 months later. We made mistakes, Dad said quietly. We underestimated you. You dismissed me. There's a difference. So what now? Daniel asked. Do you hate us for not recognizing how successful you are? I sighed, suddenly feeling exhausted. I don't hate anyone. I'm just tired of being treated like the family failure when I've actually been the most successful person in this room for years. You're not the family failure, Mom said. We never thought that. Mom, at Christmas last year, you introduced me to your friends as my daughter Elena. She's still figuring herself out. I'm the CEO of a $47 million company. I think I've figured myself out. The room was quiet except for the beeping of Dad's monitors. I'm sorry, Dad said finally. We're all sorry. We should have paid more attention, should have asked better questions, should have taken you more seriously. I don't need apologies, Dad. I need respect. I need you to stop treating me like the odd one out and start recognizing that maybe, just maybe, I know what I'm doing with my life. What can we do? Mom asked. How do we fix this? Start by stopping the assumptions. Stop seeing me as the sister who never got married, and start seeing me as the sister who built a successful company. Stop thinking of me as someone who needs guidance and start recognizing that I might be the one who can offer it. And the money? Daniel asked hesitantly. What about it? I mean, if you have that much money, does that change things between us? I studied his face, looking for signs of dollar signs in his eyes. It changes things if you let it change things. My money is my money. I'll help family when I choose to help for reasons I choose. But I won't be anyone's personal ATM. That's fair, Marcus said. Is it? Because I've actually been everyone's personal ATM for years. Daniel, who do you think has been covering your credit card payments when you fall behind? Marcus, where did you think that consulting income on your taxes was coming from? Sophie, how do you think your student loans got paid off early? They all stared at me. The difference is now you know about it. Now we can have honest relationships instead of me secretly taking care of everyone while you all think I'm the unsuccessful one. Dad reached for my hand. Elena, Mija, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of what you've built, and I'm sorry we didn't see it sooner. I'm proud of you too, Dad. You raised me to work hard and solve problems. That's exactly what I did. 3 weeks later, I was back in my office at Meridian Medical Solutions, reviewing plans for our next product line when Maria knocked on my door. Elena? Your brother Daniel is here to see you. I looked up, surprised. Send him in. Daniel entered my office looking around with obvious amazement. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, awards and patents lined the walls, and my degrees were prominently displayed behind my desk. Wow, he said. This is, wow. Is everything okay? How's Dad? Dad's great. Full recovery, just like Dr. Richardson predicted. Daniel sat down across from my desk. I actually came to talk about something else. What's that? I've been thinking about what you said at the hospital. About offering guidance and us not taking you seriously. I was wondering, would you be willing to look at a business plan? I raised an eyebrow. What kind of business plan? It's different this time. Not some get-rich-quick scheme or franchise opportunity. I want to start a medical equipment sales company, representing smaller manufacturers who can't afford their own sales teams. That's actually not a terrible idea. Medical equipment sales can be very lucrative if you understand the industry. That's the thing, I don't understand the industry. But I'm good at sales and I'm good with people. I was hoping maybe you could teach me about the medical side. I studied his face. He seemed sincere, more focused than I'd seen him in years. You want me to mentor you? I want my successful sister to help me learn how to be successful too. If you're willing. For the first time in our adult relationship, Daniel was asking for my expertise instead of my money. I'd be happy to help, I said. But I have conditions. Name them. First, this is a mentoring relationship, not a financial investment. You fund your own startup. Second, you do the work. I'll provide guidance and connections, but you have to prove you're serious. Third, no special treatment because you're my brother. If your business model is bad, I'll tell you. Deal. Good. Send me your preliminary business plan by Friday. We'll start there. As he was leaving, Daniel turned back. Elena? Thank you. Not just for this, but for everything. for Dad's surgery, for the money you've been quietly sending us over the years, for putting up with us not appreciating you. You're my family, Daniel. That's what family does. Yeah, but you've been doing more than your share. Maybe. But now we can start fresh. Equal partnership, honest communication. I'd like that. 6 months later, Daniel's medical equipment sales company landed its first major contract. Sophie had enrolled in business classes and was planning to reopen her boutique with a sustainable business model. Marcus had started a legitimate consulting firm focusing on small business development. Me. I was still the CEO of Meridian Medical Solutions, still saving lives through innovation, still living with Schrödinger in my penthouse apartment. But now, finally, my family saw me for who I really was. Sometimes it takes a crisis to show people what was there all along. In our case, it took a heart attack and a cancer scare to reveal that the family failure had actually been the family success story all along. But the best part wasn't that they finally recognized my achievements. The best part was that they finally started recognizing their own potential. Because once they stopped seeing me as lesser, they started seeing themselves as capable of more. And that, I realized, was the greatest gift I could have given them. Not my money but my example. Not my financial support but my belief in their ability to succeed on their own. Family isn't about carrying each other. It's about believing in each other enough to let everyone carry their own weight.